Hello everyone, thank you for clicking on this video. Today I'm going to be teaching you my very own creation, the Dog Gambit. The Dog Gambit starts after the moves g3, and no matter what black plays, bishop to h3. This is the Dog Gambit. It is very easy to remember because you play it against everything. Once this position is reached for white, no matter what black has played, you are in the Dog Gambit. Let's begin with what happens if they have pre-moved, because chances are you are playing the Dog Gambit in a blitz or a bullet game and not in a rapid or a classical. If you do play the Dog Gambit in a rapid or classical game, it is much more likely for your opponent to capture your bishop, which is absolutely fine, but we will go over that second to what if they pre-move, because pre-moving is much more likely in the time controls that you will be playing the Dog Gambit. So, knight to f6. Here you will capture their c8 bishop. After they recapture, you will target the d5 pawn with moves such as knight to c3, e3, queen to f3, knight to e2, and so on. I will show a sample line. This is a great position. You have taken their light squared bishop, so there will never be a queen trap. If they jump in with their knight, that's no issue. You move the queen to g2, and it is applying a nice pressure still to this key pawn. However, after knight to c3, they might not be scared. They might be bold and push. What if they push? You don't freak out, you simply drop the knight back to b1, and now you are in a position similar to that of an Alekhine's defense. This pawn is much more fun to attack on d4, since it is now in your territory. You will play moves such as e3, knight to f3, or to e2, c3, and so on and so forth. I will show a sample line now. If they push here, they simply lose this pawn, since you have misplaced their queen. You are never scared of them capturing here. You can recapture with the bishop or with the pawn and get an open f-file for an attack. This is a great position. You can also solidify and shut down anything if you would like to play in a position like that. For example. And then at some point you can break with c3, even immediately. Your knight can move to h4, you can castle or simply just bring your rook to f1, f4, and attack the king. Before we cover the main line, bishop takes h3, we will cover some common pre-move blunders, one of which is bishop to f5. You simply capture their bishop and are in a completely winning position. Another is after the move knight to f6, where once you have captured their c8 bishop, they may have pre-moved something such as g6, where you capture on b7 and then on a8 and win, or e6, where the same thing happens. The last two things we will cover before moving on to the main line is what happens if they block out your bishop from taking on c8, and what happens if they don't play d5 at all. First, what happens if they've blocked out your bishop by playing e6? Well, they've also blocked their bishop in, but you can play the black dog variation of the Dog Gambit, which is the move bishop to g2. I recommend this especially if you are a modern defense player as black. You will then play just as you would in a modern defense, d3, knight to f3, and castles. This is the black dog variation of the Dog Gambit, because you are now technically playing black as white. Now, what happens if they don't play d5? Well, it's no issue. You still initiate the Dog Gambit, and it's quite difficult for them not to move this pawn. It's very natural for them to take the full center in such positions. They may have pre-moved this, which is great for us. You know what to do in this position. Knight to c3, and you play from there, attacking the d5 pawn. You can also, if you do not like leaving your bishop out here, and would like to start pre-moving yourself, bring the bishop back to g2, and go back into the black dog variation of the Dog Gambit. Just like this. One more thing before we get into the main line. After d5, bishop to h3, e6, you do not need to play the black dog variation. You can absolutely leave this bishop where it is on h3, leaving annoying pressure against their c8 bishop. You can simply play moves like d3, knight to c3, e3, knight to e2, castles, and f4. Now we will go over the main line. Bishop takes h3. If your opponent plays this, chances are they are a slow player, which is great for us, because we will create complicated positions that are very hard to navigate for an attack as black. You will recapture the bishop with the knight. Popular moves include queen to c8 or queen to d7, both of which have been played against me numerous times with no issue. If queen to c8, you can simply play knight to f4 and you attack this pawn. It is very fun for us. If queen to d7, however, they still defend this pawn, and playing knight to f4 is slightly more risky because they will hit you with tempo by playing the move e5. It is still an absolutely fine position to play, but you must be unafraid of them having the full center. You'll drop the knight back to g2, after which you will create counterplay via the moves d3, e4, f4, castling, and playing on against their center. If they push, you aren't scared. You will crack at it with the move f4. Finally, we will look at what happens if they play normally after they have captured your bishop on h3, or at least as normally as black can play in such a position. As I said before, it is very hard to navigate for them to attack you in this position. Now, let's say they play knight to f6. You leave the knight here. It is not attacked, it is not threatened, there are no tactics to win it. You can play the move d3. You will bring the bishop out. You will bring the knight either to c3 and attack the d5 pawn, or to d2. You can play moves such as e3 and queen to f3, again applying pressure to the d5 pawn, and castling queenside if at all. Usually you will not be castling kingside, as you have given up a bishop and made some light squared weaknesses by playing the move g3. Let me give you a sample line here. You are in a great position here. You will attack them with moves such as f5, knight to g5, rook d to f1, rook h to g1 and blow up the board, attacking their king ruthlessly. Alright, pack. That's the end of today's rough outline on how to play the Dog Gambit. If you enjoyed watching, give that like button a good boop with your snoot, and don't forget to sit, stay, and subscribe. Until next time.